To a certain extent. I mean, there are some organizational things that need to take place, and we're going to be addressing some of that today as well. They like to say that it's an organism. Well, the one thing about an organism is that it is not a static thing, right? You and I, we are not static. We are always dynamic. We are always, in fact, from the time that we're conceived, I know this is a kind of a downer, but from the time we're conceived, we're always headed towards death. Aren't you glad you're here this morning? Right? But that's the reality. But that's just to say there is this journey. We never can be, as human beings, as an organism just cannot be stagnant. It just doesn't happen that way. And so that's the same thing for us. So the ministry model is something that we've been working on. We've really been talking a lot about it here the last 6 months. Pastor Ryan, myself, the church staff, and then we've been sharing it with the elders and eventually with Tim. So let me just walk through this with you, and then this will give way to kind of some of the things that Tim was saying about how we want to and how we see ourselves functioning as a council as we move through. You have it there before you. I'm going to read some of this. I'm not going to read all of it, so just kind of bear with me. There's two assumptions, though, that kind of undergird this particular model. The first is that we serve a relational God, and that because He's a relational God, He created us to be relational people. And so the life together as Christians is done relationally. The same God who invites people to live in a relationship with Him and a relationship with other people. And so that's what our desire is. It's our desire to leverage those relationships to help people connect life and faith. That's kind of where it's at. And that would go for not just doing that among us, meaning among those of us that call St. Paul our church home, but it also is the way we want to interact and connect with the community on a relational level. The second thing, and I already kind of addressed this, is that the Christian walk is about a journey. All people are headed somewhere in life. Our mission is to help them journey towards deeper and greater intimacy with God and with other people. And so we're going to have a great emphasis that's going to be placed on process as opposed to program. In other words, instead of process serving program is going to serve process. That is, our program elements should serve the purpose of helping people move further along in their quest for greater love and intimacy for God and other people. Talking about this then in the terms of a journey, in order for us, just for clarifications, and I'm not real big about trying to categorize people and things necessarily, because I think sometimes that can become hurtful for some people, and it can give rise to doing a lot of comparisons, and that's not the purpose. But I think at times it is helpful just for us to get a visual, an image, if you will, a picture of what we mean when we talk about this journey. All right, and so to that end, and as I'm stating here, for the purpose of clarity and to foster an understanding about what this whole thing is about, we're going to kind of think about and talk about people residing in or being in one of three environments in their faith journey. And the nomenclature and the imagery that we have chosen is that of your own home. And so we're going to be talking about it in terms of three. One's the foyer, one's the family room, and then the third one is the kitchen. And when you think about it, all those rooms have different functions in your home. Family members and close friends are going to enter your home through a variety of entry points, right? When you have people over, they come through various doors, and usually the door that they come in has some relationship to how you are currently relating with them. In other words, your visitors, your guests, so to speak, while the people that your friends and family, they may come through, your back door, your side door. Sometimes you even let them come through your horrible garage, right? Because that's the level of intimacy you have with them at that time. But I dare say that if someone's coming over to your house for the first time, most of us, some will, but most of us don't say, yeah, come through my garage and take the tour through the laundry room into my home. That's not the way it happens. So guests, as we talk about this, they refer to those who are outside of or on the periphery of a fundamental relationship with God. Notice I didn't talk about how they relate to us as a church. This is really about how they are relating to God currently in their life. And so generally the attitudes of those people that are we would consider to be guests are going to be anything from saying to themselves that I don't like God, to I don't need God, to maybe God is what I'm missing in my life and I'm going to kind of check it out. I've tried everything else and so now I'm going to see if God has some answers for me. We need to realize that all people do matter to God, and therefore an association with St. Paul does not preclude or exclude developing meaningful relationships with people outside of God's family. In other words, it's important for us, it's incumbent upon us to seek to have relationships with all walks of people, no matter where they are in their spiritual journey. And I would say to you, if you're sitting here this morning, you're saying, wow, I don't really know anybody that I would call a guest in my life, then I would suggest to you that you need to go out and get some guests in your life. All right, that means that you are living too cloistered of a life as a Christian. It's just pretty much that simple. Connecting with guests is more than just an individual thing, so we're not putting the onus of this just strictly on individuals, but it is a partnership, and that's where we come in as a church. So as members of St. Paul invest in the lives of people, we're going to be committed to providing a place where people can investigate God's claim on their lives in non-threatening, spirit-anointing environments, whether that's our Sunday morning experience, or a foyer event, what we might call a foyer event. We're going to do our best to be an evangelical tool in the hands of our people, because we seek to effectively communicate God's love and grace to people outside the family of God in a way that they're going to understand, as at the same time keeping an eye on consistency of style and remaining aware of our guests' presence among us. And so simply put, the foyer is the environments in our church. They're usually going to be larger in size, where we are going to meet and greet our guests, and where people's minds then are changed about their thinking about the church and subsequently about God because of the way we treat them as the church. Does that make sense? And so it is our hope that we would encounter people in the foyer as we do that their fears would be diffused and their lives will be infused with a thirst for God and for the desire to return. That's kind of what the whole foyer thing is like. And I dare say that's kind of what you use your foyer for in your home as well. Unless you don't like the person that came in the front door and then you want to show them right back out. But we're not that way, right? So that's not even on the table for us. Okay, so as people come to us, they are going to enter through our foyer. We don't want to leave them there, though. Just as you don't leave the people that you want to hang out with in your home, you don't leave them in the foyer. You don't say, yeah, we're going to just stand here all night and have a conversation. Typically, you're going to invite them into another room in your home, and most of the time that's going to be into your family room. The family room is designed to help people move from just attending foyer events to being part of our fellowship, to become better acquainted. This is the place in your home that is comfortable, it's inviting, it fosters conversations, and it helps you learn more about the people with whom you are doing life. Well, likewise, people at St. Paul's family room environments will not only become better acquainted with other family members, but will also get better acquainted with God, who He is, what He has done, and how members of His family respond to His goodness and mercy and grace. And so, in other words, the family room is going to be the environment in our church where we're going to foster and nurture people in their faith. So it's going to be the place where we're going to help them connect life and faith. We're going to help them connect with God, connect with other Christians. The family room is where we're going to be doing our work in the context of new member classes and needs-based classes and Bible classes and life classes and faith classes. All of those types of things will take place in the family room. It's also the place where we might foster a desire and help people get connected in the context of doing life in small groups, because that's where that encouragement and that accountability can take place in a person's faith walk. As they engage in the family room environment, it's our prayer that they will bond with other people with whom they find affinity and long to journey with other Christ followers as together they grow deeper in their relationship with God and with one another. In other words, it's the incubating place for that maturing process, if you will. Proverbs 27:17 says this: as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That's our family room. So we don't want to leave people there either, because what we wind up with if we leave people in the family room is we wind up with a lot of really smart and intelligent and very mature people in their knowledge, at least, but it kind of ends there. It stops there. And so we want that movement to continue, and that movement for us is going to be to then move them into the kitchen. The kitchen is the place where oftentimes deep life experience is shared and exchanged. It's where dreams about your life are shared and maybe even encouraged. It's in that kitchen environment, if you will. I don't know what it is like in your house, but I know in our house, the greater intimacy that we develop with the people that we are in relationship with, the more apt we are to inviting them into our kitchen and okay with them being in our kitchen. because oftentimes the kitchen, number one, it's a place where there's a lot of serving that takes place, and initially that might not be what you want your guests to be doing, but as you get to know them better and you develop a greater relationship with them, you're okay with them coming in the kitchen and helping out. The kitchen oftentimes is oftentimes not a very it's not a very clean place. A lot of times there's some messiness there, and a lot of times we want to try and keep that from folks. But as your relationship with them kind of develops and grows, then you're okay. And even, I know most of the time when I go to some homes and when people come to my home, we spend a lot of our time in the kitchen. And like I said, we're sharing conversation and talking about what were our dreams. Well, likewise, people at St. Paul's Kitchen Environments are going to be encouraged and equipped to live lives of service by loving and serving God through loving and serving people. This is the place where we're going to help them dream the dreams that God has equipped them to accomplish. They will be encouraged to use the entirety of the life that God has given to them, their time, their talents, their abilities, their treasure, for God and the ministry that He desires to do through them. As they spend time in the kitchen, we hope that their priorities will flow towards God as they make resource decisions between not simply what is good and a bad use of their resources, but decisions about what is good and better, and beyond that, even to better and best uses of their resources. And of course, we happen to believe that the things of God are always the best uses of our resources. So there's going to be a lot of equipping that takes place in the kitchen. There's going to be a lot of encouraging, a lot of sending, people back out, because this is not a matter of okay, now we hit the kitchen and so now we just kind of do this all the time. It is then about going out and replicating. And that is, if I can, Ryan, can you bring the entire model back up for me, please? And that's what you see there, and that's the intent of the arrows and that circular pattern. So we understand that there's going to be people, they'll enter in through the foyer. We hope to move them into the family room where they'll be nurtured and brought up in their connecting life and faith. We'll equip them in the kitchen, and then the goal of the kitchen then is in equipping them that we will send them back out to serve other people, to invite other people then. So that's the thing here down in the bottom where you have one person coming out of the kitchen and you got two people coming back into the foyer. So that's kind of the way we see the ministry model here at St. Paul. All of that having been said, and I promise I'll give you a shot at some questions here in just a minute, but all that being said, that helps us kind of visualize the movement of our people. Now, how that impacts us as a council is simply this. We believe that if this is the ministry model that we are going to work towards and work within with our people, that the best way that we can then structure our council and do our work as a council is also to, as a council, pay attention to what is happening on a strategic level, what is happening in each and every one of these environments. And so to that end, the way we would like to proceed with our council meetings is that we are going to break up into these three strategic teams. Perhaps the role that you're serving currently on council will perhaps drive which team, which environment that you're going to spend time in. Perhaps it won't, but we just believe that if as a council, if we're going to say that we're looking for and expecting our people to come to St. Paul to move through these three environments, that it is best for us then to spend our planning time, our strategic time, our decision making in this way. And so the way we see our meetings going, and Tim already said that we're committing to an hour-and-a-half meeting, and we're going to model that here in just a moment today, but we envision basically our meetings being split out into three time groupings. So we will gather, we will start on time. The first order of business at the council meeting will be a time of leadership training. That's another aspect that we think we've been kind of falling short on here at St. Paul, not doing a very good job of raising up leaders. And if we're going to say that we need to raise up leaders within our entire congregation, then we need to be doing something as a council to be raising our leadership levels. All right. Some of what you may hear in some of these leadership training sessions, maybe you already know, and that's great. You can jump in and add to that conversation for sure. Other things, hopefully you're going to hear some, or at least be reminded of some new things, or or challenged in a thing that maybe you knew but you've kind of fallen short on as a leader. And so that's what that first 30-minute segment of our meeting is going to be about. It's going to be about giving us an opportunity to raise our leadership cap, if you will. The second third of the meeting, or the second 30 minutes of the meeting, we will spend time in our strategic teams. The foyer team, the family room team, and the kitchen team. You'll spend time in there dialoguing, making decisions, strategizing about some of the things that need to take place so that we can continue to see that forward movement in our ministry. There may be times where you've got some, maybe there's a time where in the family room you're talking about something and you think that there's something that maybe the foyer team needs to maybe address, because you're sitting there saying, man, if the foyer team did this with the people as they're first coming to us, then maybe by the time they hit the family room, we'll have that jump up on everything and can continue that momentum and so on and so forth. So yes, there will be crosstalk between these environments and your teams. Likewise, you may be discussing something in one of your teams, and you might feel that you need to invite someone that is someone that's on the front lines, engaging in a particular ministry that your team is concerned about or have questions about. At that point, you just invite them to come and sit in on your meeting, and allow them to have input and ask them questions and those types of things. I guess I'll mention this, that in this model, Pastor Ryan and I, and eventually some of the executive team members will actually float among the teams. And so that's to say, though, also that if your team is talking about something that you feel you need a question answered by one of the pastors, or you just need some clarity, or you want to say, hey, can we do this? Before we walk down this path, invite us. We'll be floating. We'll be hitting your teams over the course of that 30-minute. But if you absolutely want us to be there, you just need to say, hey, could you make sure you stop by our meeting, and we will make sure that we stop by that meeting and offer whatever assistance we can. All right. The last third of our meeting, then, on a regular basis, will be a time of gathering back together for debrief, and if you have things coming out of your strategic team that the whole council needs to talk about, or you'd like to receive input from the rest of the council, that's the time for that, is that last 30-minute piece. And then, of course, we will, at the end, hopefully get out in 90 minutes. That's the goal. All right? Questions?
If you're moving around, someone else is leading that room.
Yes.
So how will that all be figured out?
Initially, you will have, in fact, let me just give these to you right now. Today, we've done some prescriptive work for you with respect to, and I tried to save a little bit of paper, so I made one per table for one person. But today we're going to be a little more prescriptive with it. We're going to invite you to join a particular team. The thing about your assignments today is, if you're looking at that sheet and you're saying, man, what in the world are they thinking putting me in the kitchen? Just bear with us, okay? Please just go into that particular environment today, into that strategic team meeting today. First of all, to give it a shot, but then secondly, if you have a heart, if you have a passion for something else, to be in one of the environments, talk to us about that after the meeting, and we can kind of see how all of that works out, okay? Also today, when you get into your groups, we have also been prescriptive about who the leaders of those groups are going to be, namely Tim Marcis, Mike Hampton, and John Larson. And that's just because we didn't want you to take your time today to sit around in your strategic team and spend a lot of time trying to, no, you be the leader, no, you be the leader, no, you be. Okay, so we felt it'd be better if we went in there with somebody already set up and prepared to do that. And then again, as that group comes together and starts to meet, our hope and our prayer would be that leaders would be raised up out of that to then continue the ongoing discussions as we go through. What you're also going to find today is that there's going to be some prescribed topics, just as a way of trying to get you started, to get you rolling in those strategic teams, so you're not sitting around saying, okay, what do we talk about today? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, quick question. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, the individual, I guess, boards, they will still meet, like elders will still meet as a board, trustees will still meet as a board outside of council meetings.
Yeah, everything still functions outside of the council meetings. And if you recall, I said that there were actions that needed to be addressed within the council meeting. They should be put on the report. Those typically items that would be brought back and worked within rooms, suggested by boards.
And if there's no actions, it's basically as written, read the report and we're not gonna spend time.
We're not gonna spend time, if we can do it this way and it becomes valuable and successful, we won't be reporting and spending time just reading reports.
That's the importance of the format of your report.
And timing, because if it comes in late and people don't have the information, that's why it's real critical. Get the reports in, we'll get them out, please spend time reading them. If you have concerns, we can talk about it.
Will we get the lovely reminder from ASHA that the reports are due? Yes?
I'm sure.
It's the only thing that saves my butt.
I find those helpful as well, so yeah.
So these strategic teams are separate teams from your board.
Yes.
So it's like two different aspects of it. The exciting thing about this model is it makes this body much more action oriented, right? Because I think there was a lot of people, you know, looking and motivated to do more, but we weren't providing the vehicle or the conduit to do that. So actually, one thing, if you could just kind of talk to people about the visibility that this will have within the congregation. So I think as this team gets its head around it, you know, what visibility are we planning for this for the congregation to hold and understand what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to share certainly the ministry model with them just in its entirety to help them understand as well, because it's good for them to also know that there is some expectation and some movement that we're seeking them, that you know, just showing up on Sunday morning to be here for an hour for worship on a Sunday, well, that's a great thing. That's really a starting point. That's not the ending point. And so just to help them start to change their thinking about, you know, just their overall faith walk and then the importance of connecting life and faith. Likewise, we will certainly share with them that this model, because I think this communicates a lot, that if we're kind of sharing this ministry model with them and saying kind of this is an important thing, then likewise it's also important for them to, I think, to see that we think it's important enough to where we as a council are going to function within the confines of this particular model as well, so that they know that we are paying specific attention to this movement and what each of these environments can do to help them along their walk, their journey, if you will.
And how will that initially be communicated?
Well, I think you know, these are good questions for some of the strategic teams, because we know communication's been an issue, you know, for some time here. But I would see this going out in a number of different ways. This particular graphic, I think, will start to appear in places, even on our website, those types of things. We will need to put out, you know, we need to figure out what we're going to do as a council. And again, I don't want to spend time here because this is one of the things for the strategic teams, but how are we going to continue to communicate? We have been just done a horrendous job at trying to communicate through the infamous newsletter. But at the same time, this would be something that would need to be, I think, needs to be communicated in writing so that the people have something that they can hold on to and grasp and that type of thing. I would also see somewhere here down the road in the not too distant future, it's going to be tough because of this, just the crunch that we have this particular year with how early Easter is. But I would expect that at some point we would actually present this information and kind of flesh it out a little bit more in the context of a message series, so that people can kind of start to chew on it, understand it a little bit better, and those types of things.
Sorry for another question, but will there be some, you know, like messaging or on this, like to kind of dovetail into this with like sermon or something like that, or?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That again, it would be nice it'd be great if we could maybe get it done in this first quarter. It probably isn't going to happen though because of where Easter hits, and we've got to get through our stewardship campaign. We're in a current like kind of visioning, mission type dreaming series now, and then by the time we get the stewardship thing out of the way, we're going to be staring Easter in the face.
So the problem we're gonna have is after we get done with this in the year, there's gonna be 3 or 4 people vying for each of these positions, and it's gonna be very contentious when we go out and look for new leaders and such. We're hoping that people get, you know, perceive this as something that is valuable and decisions are being made here rather than just reporting and things like that. So it's all of us that have to make this work. So it should be a lot of fun, because I think the topics that you've put together, they fit well within the room, and I think once you get into the group and start talking about it, you'll see how they fit in the rooms.
Just that you don't think you'll get the message out about this thing till after Easter. That might be a good thing. Let us figure it out.
Work with it.
Amongst ourselves,
Yep.
work out the kinks and stuff
Yep.
before we throw it out there and then realize, oh, this part of it isn't working. So it's probably better.
And I'm so glad that you made that comment, because that's something that we do all need to understand. This is a new thing. And I'm not standing up here saying, number one, that it's perfect, and number two, that we're gonna execute it perfectly, all right? And so, point well made, Lynn, I mean, you know, we're gonna stub our toe, it's gonna happen, we're gonna struggle at times, we're gonna be confused at times about, you know, how does this get handled in this new thing? But, I think if we stick with it, I think it will, you know, generate the fruit that we've been, you know, looking for and dreaming about and those types of things.
And it has been discussed within the elders for at least 6 or 7 months or.
About 4 months with the elders, and then as a staff, we were working with it about 2 months before
Okay,
that.
so this isn't something we just hatched up in like a week,
No.
so.
I think too, that once the congregation gets the feeling for this, I think there'll be a lot more communication between the council and, people out there in the pews, because a lot of times you get questions, well, who do I talk to about this, and what do I talk about? And nobody knows where to go to talk to anybody, so if they feel that the council is really engaged in their worship and their Christian life, I think that'll be a big help with everybody.